Chapter 1. When my husband came to pick me up from the hospital. My best friend was sitting in the front passenger seat. She still had that radiant, confident smile, but made no move to offer me her seat. Long time no see. I've been sitting in the front for so long. I just got back to the country. Can't I enjoy it a bit? Mrs. Luis, behind the wheel, said nothing. He simply changed the subject. How did the test results go? I clenched the report in my hand, the one that confirmed I was pregnant, then quietly opened the rear door and replied. Just indigestion. I hadn't expected Zoe to show up at the class reunion. Last I heard, she'd been abroad for 3 years, doing quite well. If I had known she'd be there, I never would have come. Oh, Miranda, you're still just as delicate as ever. Running to the hospital over a little indigestion? What a waste of medical resources. She still called me by my old nickname. As if we were just as close as we used to be. She flicked at one of the little decorations I'd put in the car. And Luis, this car cost what? A few million? But it's all frilly and girly. Are you even a man? Luis just looked ahead. Chuckled softly. She likes it. Ugh, not my style. This gorgeous car looks all mismatched now. I can buy you one if you want. Please, cut the big shot act. Without me, who would have helped you climb the ranks? There was a subtle curve at the corner of Luis's mouth. I hadn't seen him smile like that in a long time. The air conditioning inside the car was blasting. My heart felt just as cold. I grabbed a light blanket from the side and wrapped it around myself. Cold? Luis glanced at me through the rearview mirror, frowning as he reached to turn up the temperature. But Zoe suddenly placed her hand over his. Hey, but I'm really hot. If she's cold, maybe crack the window a bit for some warm air? We're almost there anyway, she can hold out, right? Their hands rested naturally together. Only when Luis saw me nod, did he pull his hand away and refocus on driving. One of you's always cold, the other's always hot. Hard to believe you ever lived in the same dorm room. Zoe didn't respond this time. I smiled faintly. Did you forget? Back then, she was always running around with you. Barely stayed in the dorm at all. Luis said nothing. Zoe lowered her head, pretending to fiddle with her phone. The silence in the car felt like guilt, hanging thick in the air. Chapter 2. Zoe and I had known each other since we were little. Her father passed away early, and her mother worked as a housekeeper for my family. We had once shared the same bed, dressed up each other's dolls, shared the same pack of sanitary pads, and whispered about the boys in our class late into the night. It wasn't until much later that I realized we also both fell for Luis. At first, I would sometimes invite Zoe to join us on dates. Luis didn't like it much. He voiced his discontent more than once, but I never expected that. Over time, on our 3-person outings, the one sent to buy water would always be me. Sometimes, they would attend gatherings with mutual friends without me. After all, I didn't enjoy hanging out in internet cafes, had no interest in bird hunting, and wouldn't dare join their group's motorcycle games. Zoe, on the other hand, loved all of it, and even if she didn't know how, she was always willing to learn. I never thought their behavior crossed any lines. I just thought I was lucky. My best friend and my boyfriend were close, like brothers. It felt like we were one happy family, until one day, she made a bet with me. Would Luis choose her or me? She lost. But somehow, I didn't feel like I had one. Zoe went abroad. Luis provided both the scholarship slot and the money. She said she wanted to study overseas, and he made it happen. As for me, I was the daughter in an arranged union between 2 families. He didn't have the right to refuse. Chapter 3. The reunion turned out to be even harder to endure than I had imagined. Someone ordered a durian pizza. The smell churned my stomach. I clutched my mouth and excused myself from the table. The restroom was inside the private room, and the soundproofing was poor. That's why, when Zoe said she came back for love, I heard it loud and clear. A wave of teasing laughter rose up like crashing surf. Who's the one our lady Zoe is chasing? Come on, spill it. I really shouldn't say. I might upset someone. Just say it. Who would dare be mad at you? If it comes to that, I'll help you win them over. That was Luis's voice, You said it, MHM. That person is right here in front of me. Silence fell in the room, as tense and frozen as my own breath. After a long beat, the joking resumed. Then I heard Luis's helpless voice. Zoe, stop messing around. I pushed the door open and walked out. That's when I saw Zoe had already taken the seat I had just left. She leaned against Luis, her eyes still glowing with affection she hadn't yet hidden. Luis stood up first and walked over, his eyes full of concern. Are you feeling better? Just like so many times in the past. All it took was the slightest softness in his tone to make me feel like everything was okay, no matter what had happened. As long as he opened his mouth, I would automatically let everything go, because his reputation had always been more important than my feelings, and he had always assumed I would stay understanding forever. I looked up at him, and smacked him hard across the face. That always composed, aloof look in his eyes shattered for a brief moment. In the distance, I heard Zoe scream, Miranda, are you insane? I stared coldly at the man I had loved for so many years. Luis. Let's get a divorce. Luis had always been good to me. As a husband, he was almost perfect. He came from a strict family, and knew exactly how to treat his wife with the appropriate attitude. So even when I slapped him in public, and asked for a divorce, he only frowned. Miranda, let's talk about this at home. No one dared make a sound. Only Zoe raised her voice. Let's all calm down and talk this out. If you want, I can go home with you too, Anne. I finally gave her my first direct look of the day. Go home with us? Who do you think you are? Luis still hadn't relaxed his frown. Miranda, Zoe meant well. You don't need to be so sensitive. He didn't say a word after being slapped by me, but the moment I spoke harshly to Zoe, he suddenly found his voice. My eyes began to blur with tears, but I didn't expect Zoe's to fall before mine. Miranda, was it because of the joke I made earlier? If it upset you, I apologize. She bent slightly, her tears falling onto the carpet. I just stared at her, cold and silent. There's no need to take it so seriously. You probably don't know, but Luis and I always joke like that. The rest of the guys know. I've been away too long. I forgot for a moment that you two are already married. It's my fault. Then, classmates who had been watching from the sidelines finally began to chime in. Yeah, Miranda, don't take it so hard. She didn't mean it like that. Luis married you, didn't he? Zoe knows where the boundaries are. Miranda used to be so soft-spoken, didn't think she'd actually slap someone, never saw that side of her. Zoe's so easygoing and cheerful. I kinda regret not getting to know her better back in school. Chapter 4. I laughed, and as I laughed, the tears I had just managed to hold back welled up again. Zoe, you know exactly what your intentions are. Luis suddenly stepped in front of her, his tall frame as if shielding her from my so-called slander. Miranda, how long are you going to keep this up? I stared at the side of his face, now gradually swelling. Even though the bruise ruined his clean-cut looks a bit, it only made him look more human. But in his eyes, that sense of clarity and righteousness was still unwavering, like a judge sitting high above, looking down at me with pity and sternness. This farce, in the end, still came to a close under Luis's careful orchestration. This time, Zoe didn't sit in the front seat beside me. Luis, so thoughtful, called a cab for her. Through the window, I saw him nod gently to her, speaking to the driver. It looked exactly like that summer long ago outside the school gates. Someone had told me to look up, so I did. I saw Zoe skipping happily into the car, Luis patting her head, whispering something to the driver. His expression was soft, indulgent. Back then, they would go out with friends often, and it had become an unspoken understanding between us. What I didn't know was that sometimes it was just the two of them, no one else. Back then, Zoe was youthful and bold. She kissed her palm, then suddenly pressed it against Luis's cheek. Seeing his shock, she blushed and laughed. I froze. All the subtle clues from before, none of them had hit as hard as this moment of truth. The sound of the car door closing snapped me back to the present, seeing I wasn't in the front seat. Luis let out a helpless sigh. Miranda, Zoe didn't sit there to provoke you. She just thought the AC in the front was better. His tone was incredibly sincere. Usually by this point, my anger would have been halfway gone. Maybe in the next second, I'd already be climbing back into that seat with a pout. If he added a gemstone necklace from the next auction, the whole thing would be over and done with. But Zoe, I don't think I'll ever be done with her, Luis. Since we got married, you've never let anyone else sit in that seat. The car remained unmoving. Luis lit a cigarette. He knew I hated the smell of smoke. Yet here he was, lighting one inside the cramped car. I thought you'd be happy to see Zoe again. You two were such close friends, weren't you? I let out a cold laugh. Right. Close enough to share a boyfriend. The car fell silent, choked by second-hand smoke. I rolled down the window. He flicked the still half-lit cigarette out the window, his voice low and hoarse. Back then, when I looked at her, I'd see you, so I treated her with a bit more patience. But I always saw her as a brother. The car was dim. I lowered my head. A tear slid from my nose into my clenched fist. Did you know? Once when she was drunk, she cried and told me, if only she were a man, then maybe you wouldn't keep your guard up so much. And maybe you two wouldn't have grown so distant. I remembered that night. Zoe showed me the recording, eyes full of smug satisfaction. She said that from then on, Luis would only see benefit in me, not love. Maybe she was right, at the very least. I was sure he had never argued for me like he did for her. She didn't grow up as wealthy as you. Yet she turned out so outstanding, all by her own effort. Even if you have resentment toward her, you shouldn't make snap judgments without hearing her out. She only wanted to give you a surprise today. Suddenly, my chest ached with anxiety, and in my ears, his voice, filled with disappointment. Miranda, there's nothing between us anymore, so why can't you just let Zoe go? Chapter 5. He asked me to let Zoe go. But when did Zoe or he ever let me go? I chose silence to make my stance clear. He didn't pressure me, just sped down the road in silence. A drive that usually took 20 minutes was done in 10 when I stepped out of the car. Zoe was standing at the door. She raised her hands in a playful surrender gesture, stuck out her tongue. I just came to grab something. I'll leave right away. Luis had helped her land a job abroad, and now that she was back, of course, they'd have work-related dealings. I had expected that much. What I hadn't expected was for Luis to let her stay the night. Looking at his stern profile, I knew he was still angry, as if he were silently declaring, "This is my house. I make the decisions, and I could only accept them." When his gaze flicked toward me, I understood. He was waiting for me to give in, maybe even beg. And perhaps, he'd graciously ask Zoe to leave. But I didn't. I just walked ahead, calm and wordless. Zoe stayed in the guest room at the far end of the hall. Before bed, she came to say goodnight, and apologized again. I simply closed the door coldly in her face, turned, and lay down. But I couldn't sleep, so when the man beside me quietly got up in the middle of the night, I immediately noticed. Still, I kept my eyes shut, hiding the tears slowly pooling beneath my lashes. The hallway light was on. The game room door, one that was rarely ever opened, was now wide open. Luis, this is amazing. You really recreated everything I described back then. I'm glad you like it. I was worried it might feel outdated now. No way. I'm so touched. Chapter 6. I leaned against the wall, suddenly feeling a little unsteady. That game room, Luis had designed it himself when the house was being renovated. He had obsessed over every detail, with a level of strictness I never understood. After all, he had shown no interest in the design of the rest of the house. Only the game room. He didn't let me touch a thing. Now I realized, it was all for one of Zoe's dreams. He must have dreamed of living in this house with her. If it weren't for me, he might have gotten what he always wanted. I numbly collapsed back into bed. That night, Luis never returned. Whatever love I had left for him faded little by little with time. At dawn, I finally got up, booked a hospital appointment on my phone, reserved a hotel room, packed a few belongings, and walked out the door. As I passed the game room, its door stood wide open. I didn't even glance that way, just walked straight out. By the time Luis realized I was gone, I was already seated in the presidential suite, enjoying the luxurious breakfast brought by the staff. My phone on the table buzzed nonstop. I let it ring for a while. After the fifth missed call, it finally fell silent. I knew Luis wouldn't call again. His patience with me had always been limited, and with my family now declining, he assumed I still needed his family's influence in the industry. He thought I was just acting out, that I'd never actually dare to leave him. But maybe he forgot the year my father cheated, and my mother sank into depression and jumped off the building. That was the year I stopped expecting anything from my so-called family. I married him because I loved him. Now that I don't anymore, there's nothing left I can't let go of. Chapter 7. A friend suddenly sent me a message. Hey, isn't this your house? Who's this chick? I opened the Weibo link. The post showed a familiar dining table and wall, dim lighting, and a close-up of a man's hand gripping a mouse. Veins bulging. The atmosphere was full of unspoken intimacy. Caption: the most beautiful thing in the world is friendship and dreams. P.S. Boss Luis burned the eggs, but he'll improve, haha. It had been posted by Zoe half an hour ago. The account's feed was completely clean aside from this post. Her main account had hundreds of thousands of followers, but this alternate account, I had never seen it before. He was willing to stay up late with her. He even made her breakfast. Clearly, it had been a wonderful night for him, and if it hadn't been for me, he might have enjoyed it even more. No idea. I'll ask Luis, I replied to my friend, then sent the screenshots directly to Luis. He always cared deeply about his public image as a family man. I wondered what kind of face he'd make after seeing that post. Half an hour later, Luis called again. This time, I picked up. His voice was slightly worn out. Where are you? Does it matter? He sighed. Miranda. Zoe just wanted to share something from her life. She used a secondary account so you wouldn't overthink it. She simply forgot to disable contact recommendations, and I've already told her to delete it. Can you stop overreacting to everything? I wiped away my tears, then let out a bitter laugh. Luis, the woman who spent the night with you last night, wasn't me. If you insist on calling that sharing a life, then I truly wish you two a very happy one. And with that, I hung up the phone. Then I blocked his number altogether. Chapter 8. Afternoon. At the hospital, I clutched the form in my hand and found a quiet corner to sit in. The doctor had said the procedure was simple, but it would be best if someone accompanied me. And yet, to my sorrow, I realized I couldn't think of a single person to call. Miranda? A male voice suddenly came from behind. I turned my head. The man in the white coat was strikingly handsome. His face lit up with surprise and unmistakable joy. I thought for a second before recalling his name. Ryan? It's me. Wow. It's been so long. I work here now. What are you doing here? Are you sick? He still radiated that impossible to ignore brilliance. His concern was genuine. Just like back in school, when he was the captain of the school team, student council president, and everybody's favorite. But he and Luis never got along. One was the golden boy, the other the school tyrant. They never saw eye to eye. Still, back then, Ryan had always looked out for me. So seeing him again now, it honestly made me happy. I'm pregnant. Here to terminate it. His smile vanished instantly. Why? Is Luis treating you badly? So he even knew who I had married. I shook my head. Doesn't matter anymore. Ryan's brows lowered, his face darkening. I didn't know why he cared so much, but my heart warmed a little. I patted his shoulder, trying to change the subject. So, you stayed in Jiang City all this time? I'll treat you to a meal next time. As I reached for my phone to exchange contacts, he suddenly spoke up. Actually, I've been trying to contact you all these years, but you never responded. I blinked, then suddenly remembered. You mean my old number? My phone got stolen back then, so I had to get a new one. Watching his eyes widen, I felt a little guilty. I was abroad at the time, so I kept delaying replacing the SIM card, and over time, I just forgot. I'm sorry. No. No, it's okay. Add me now. Both phone number and WeChat. All right? Seeing Ryan's suddenly re-energized expression. I nodded, a little stunned. Chapter 9. For some reason. If Ryan were a puppy, I was pretty sure his tail would have been wagging like a helicopter rotor. After exchanging contact info, he insisted on walking me to the main entrance. I smiled and thanked him, but as I turned around, I nearly bumped into someone. A pair of hands pulled me straight into a firm chest. Looking up, I was met with Luis's darkened face. So, he thought I had come here just to see Ryan. I couldn't be bothered to explain. Instead, I met his gaze head-on. You put a tracker in my car? Luis didn't deny it. He simply reached out, trying to take my hand. Come home with me. Hey, don't just grab her like that. Ryan tried to pry his hand off. Luis's expression darkened further. And who the hell do you think you are? This isn't your place to speak. I'm her senior. That counts for something, doesn't it? Once a senior, always a senior. Before I could even react, I saw Zoe step out of Luis's car. I couldn't help but scoff. She sure was comfortable in that front passenger seat. I shook off Luis's hand and turned to Ryan. Would you mind giving me a ride? Ryan nodded enthusiastically. Of course. I'm a smooth driver. And my passenger seat? Never touched, not even by a female fly. Unlike some people, Luis's expression was priceless. The knot of irritation and frustration inside me suddenly loosened. All I wanted was to laugh. But then, unexpectedly, Zoe came trotting over and grabbed my arm. Miranda, I'm sorry about this morning. Don't get the wrong idea about Luis. We just played games all night. If you don't believe me, you can check the game history. I stared at her coldly. That supposedly bare face of hers was clearly covered in subtle, carefully crafted makeup. Even her outfit was deliberately matched to Luis's in color. A faint scent of fur drifted off her. Luis's cologne, mixed with her own floral fragrance. It made me feel sick to my stomach. The nausea hit without warning. I didn't try to hold it back. I vomited right on Zoe. Her expression twisted for just a moment. And as Ryan handed me a tissue, I wiped the corner of my mouth, masking my smirk. Sorry, you know me. I'm delicate. When I've got indigestion, I tend to throw up anywhere. You were standing a little too close, can't blame me. The air quickly filled with a strange, indescribable smell. Luis looked visibly uncomfortable. Zoe, maybe you should take a cab later? I took a few steps back and waved at them. I've got things to do, see you. I remembered Ryan used to be the talkative type, but until we were inside the car, he didn't say a word. I glanced sideways at the faint shadows in his expression, and realized he was angry. For me, we had almost left the hospital grounds, when he finally spoke. Are you going to divorce him? I paused, then nodded. Yeah. He stared straight ahead, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. Then, as if making some silent vow, he nodded once. All right. Back at the hotel, after I'd showered and lay down, a message popped up on my phone. It was from an unknown number. Just one line. Miranda, we need to talk. About divorce? Sure. Do you really have to be this way? Annoyed, I blocked the number without hesitation. After that, Luis kept appearing in my life in one way or another, and the money he transferred to my account increased steadily. I gladly accepted every cent. Meanwhile, Zoe's WeChat feed became more and more active. Lavish banquets, custom-made couture gowns, a cruise ship lighting up the sea with millions worth of fireworks, panoramic views from the top floor of luxury office buildings, and in every photo, Luis's silhouette could be seen, faintly but unmistakably. Some friends kindly tried to warn me. I just smiled and thanked them politely. Chapter 10. Luis was indeed busy. So busy that I never saw him again, while he flew around the world with Zoe. I made time to go to the hospital and have the procedure. Lying on the hospital bed, I forced a smile to comfort Ryan. It wasn't as scary as I imagined. Thank you for being here. His eyes were red as he looked at me. You don't have to pretend to be strong, not right now. I tried to smile, but tears fell anyway. A life had just slipped away from inside me. How could I not feel anything? The separation of body and soul, a kind of pain that chokes you, like water once spilled, never retrievable, like a shattered mirror, never whole again. Chapter 11. Ryan stayed with me for many days. It was only then that I learned. He was the youngest son of one of the most powerful medical families in the country. No wonder back in school, he never struggled when it came to getting sponsorships as student council president, with the help of a professional nutritionist. My body recovered quickly. Ryan was brimming with the need to share. Every day, I had no time to grieve. I was too busy listening to all his gossip. I realized my heart was slowly, steadily healing, until one day, a calendar reminder popped up. That's when I remembered. Tomorrow was Luis's family banquet. As his wife, I was expected to attend, especially with his grandmother still around. She'd always treated me like her own granddaughter. I couldn't miss it. The next day, I dressed up slightly and drove to the Luis family's ancestral home. At the last traffic light, I unexpectedly spotted Luis's car. He was even bringing Zoe to the family banquet. I immediately overtook him, my car scraping loudly against the side of his Rolls-Royce. The screech of metal on metal was sharp and harsh. I slammed the brakes, glanced into their car, met their wide-eyed shock, and flashed an international hand gesture. Then I drove away with style, as I embraced Luis's grandmother. Luis was just pulling into the courtyard. I took great satisfaction in admiring the ruined side mirror, and the deep scratch I'd left behind. Luis, well-educated as ever, remained composed even after all that. Zoe, however, forced a smile, but her face had gone pale. Grandma, this is Zoe. I've mentioned her before. She's a good friend of mine and Miranda's. Hello, Grandma. I've always wanted to visit, but I only just returned to the country. I hope you're not upset it took me so long. Grandma squinted at them, then looked at me. She patted my hand. Come, let's go inside. She ignored Zoe completely. I smiled and let her lead me in. At the dinner table, Luis's whole family was present. Many were clearly curious about Zoe's presence, but Zoe handled it with ease. She'd always been good at charming a crowd. Only Luis's grandmother asked me, with a smile, "How have things been between you and Luis lately?" The table quieted instantly. No one dared interrupt when Grandma spoke. Everyone in the family relied on her influence. I hadn't answered yet, but Zoe jumped in sweetly. Grandma, with you around, how could they not be doing great? Even I, as an old classmate, envy them. Grandma smiled, but I caught the sharp edge behind it. Zoe didn't seem to notice. She thought she had hit the right note, and began rambling on enthusiastically. Only when the atmosphere gradually turned stiff did she finally realize she had overstepped. She fell silent. I dabbed at my lips gracefully, then picked up where the conversation had paused. Grandma, Luis and we're getting a divorce. Chapter 12. The people at the table were all stunned. Luis, who hadn't looked me in the eye the whole time, now frowned and shot me a glance. Miranda, if you want to cause a scene, at least pick the right place. Grandma simply sighed. I ignored the man beside me and spoke as if he didn't exist. Grandma, if you'd like, I'll still come visit, as long as you want me to. As if moved, she finally spoke. Miranda, have you truly thought this through? Luis immediately grew anxious. Grandma, I nodded. I have. Zoe's almond eyes widened with concern and faux sincerity. Miranda, don't be impulsive. I've seen how Luis has been lately. He's genuinely in pain. All couples argue. There's no need to divorce over something so trivial. You always wait for Luis to apologize. This time, maybe you could take a step back. Try to understand him. Suddenly, Grandma slammed the table. Luis, what the hell is she? Is this how you protect your marriage with Miranda? Zoe went pale. Luis's face turned grim. His brow furrowed. Grandma, Zoe was just trying to help. Help? Help you run around the world with her every day? Help by taking your wife's place and sleeping under your roof? Help by making your wife go through an abortion alone in the hospital, while you brought her here to meet me? Her words echoed like thunder. The room fell into a suffocating silence. I turned to look at her, shocked. So, Grandma knew everything. After a long pause, Luis's voice trembled. Grandma, what are you talking about? What abortion? He turned to me. Miranda, this was all a setup between you and Grandma, wasn't it? You staged it to make me feel guilty, didn't you? I looked at him calmly. Luis, is Zoe the only person in this world whose every word you take is truth? He stared at me, as if trying to gauge if what I said was real, but slowly. His gaze crumbled into panic and confusion. I gave a faint smile. If I ever wanted to guilt trip you, you gave me 100 opportunities. Sophomore year, at the welcome party, you got drunk and kissed her on the terrace. When she studied abroad, you invested in an education fund on campus, because you were worried her life would be too hard. Last New Year's Eve, you didn't go meet some client. You went to the airport to pick her up. She flew in just to celebrate her graduation with you. Watching the horror rise in his eyes, I peeled off each of his sins, one by one, laid them bare. That night, you two spent the whole night in the hotel, and when I asked where you were, I was in the room right next door. Luis, I've known everything all along. Buying a few people off with money, nothing surprising, especially when others are all too eager to hand me evidence themselves. My eyes swept over to Zoe, whose face had gone deathly pale. Since I was young, I was raised by my father as a pawn for marriage alliances. Dealing with a husband's infidelity was just one of the many lessons I was expected to master. But the cruelest part is, I fell in love with you. I let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. The always proud Luis suddenly dropped all pretense. He gripped my hand, voice thick with restraint. Miranda, I'm sorry. I slowly pulled my hand away from his. My voice was icy. Don't pretend anymore, Luis. Truth is, you've enjoyed all of this, haven't you? On one side, a wife who loved you but could never truly reach you. On the other, a soulmate you could never fully let go. You disgust me more than Zoe ever could. Luis closed his eyes, his voice barely audible. I can explain all of it. Of course he could. Sophomore year, he mistook Zoe, wearing my clothes, for me and kissed her. That New Year's Eve, Zoe suddenly had stomach pains, and he summoned a private doctor to watch over her all night. But none of that matters anymore. In countless gaps of time, how many times had his heart stirred? How many feelings had bloomed? Only he would ever know. Living with a boulder constantly weighing on my chest, it had already bent our relationship beyond repair. And the moment Zoe returned, it broke completely. Chapter 13. I pulled a document from my bag and handed it to him. This is the asset division I've drafted. See you at the Civil Affairs office next Monday. As I stood up to leave, Zoe suddenly dropped to her knees, begging for forgiveness. She said she just wanted to see me and Luis happy again. But I knew, she was just afraid that after today, the gates of the Luis family would forever stay closed to her. I calmly peeled her hands off mine. Zoe, you've won this time. If you think you can carry the title of Mrs. Luis, then take it. And with that, I walked away, leaving her behind to face the judgmental stares of the Luis family alone. Luis didn't even go to help her up. Before I got into the car, he pulled me into his arms, red-eyed and desperate. Miranda, I never cheated on you. Please, believe me. I broke free from his grip. No, physically, you didn't cheat. But when she returned for the reunion, you picked her up in secret, then made me sit in the back seat with her. You knew how much your overnight absences bothered me. Yet you gamed with her all night. You brought her everywhere. Let her appear at every occasion. And let me hear whispers about myself behind my back. You knew I'd silently endure it. So you let her run wild in my space, taunting me. You always said you hated people who couldn't tell right from wrong. So what about you? His body trembled. He reached out for me again, but I stepped back. Miranda, I'm sorry, but I no longer needed his empty apologies. The day before we were due at the civil office, Zoe reached out to me, through someone else. She asked to meet at the cafe near our old school. I went. She was sitting in our usual spot. My heart was calm. I ordered your favorite, banana latte. She looked worn out these days. Her face pale. Even her outfit seemed hastily put together. I placed my bag down and got straight to the point. Say what you need to say. Miranda, what are your plans for the future? Her eyes were full of concern. Like she genuinely cared. I tore through her pretense in one blow. You'd better worry about yourself. Do you really think the Luis family will accept you? Her fists clenched. I never wanted to steal the title of Mrs. Luis. I know you're not short on money, but you grew up lacking love. I just worry that after the divorce, you might do something stupid. It felt like she just told a joke. Relax. Even if I did something stupid, it's not like a nanny's daughter like you would inherit my billions. Her face turned pale. She tried to act composed. What do you mean by that? I leaned close to her, whispering into her ear. You and your mom never saw it coming, did you? That dad of ours, he was heartless enough to deny even his own biological daughter. Zoe's face went pale like ash. Her whole body trembled. When did you find out? Thanks to you, I only learned the truth recently. Poor guy. Your so-called father died never knowing that his only daughter wasn't even his. I've been thinking a lot lately. No wonder. Ever since we were kids, you copied everything I did, always trying to one-up me, and yet, somehow, always more likable in front of others. Even Luis, you had to fight me for him too. But some things, if they're meant to be yours, they'll be yours. If they're not, even if you scream until your throat bleeds, you'll never get them. Look, I gave everything up to you. Did you win in the end? Zoe finally tore off her fake sweet mask and snapped at me through gritted teeth. So what? He was only with you for profit. I'm the one he truly loves. Just because he can't marry me now doesn't mean I won't be Mrs. Luis someday. I calmly looked at her twisted face, then suddenly remembered something and smiled. Oh, by the way, something you might want to know. During the asset division, I found out that years ago, Luis bought several life insurance policies. He listed me as the sole beneficiary. Honestly, I was a little flattered. I quietly enjoyed the way the color drained from Zoe's face, then added slowly, so Luis, when he truly loves someone, goes all out to make sure someone else is protected. Really touching, isn't it? Zoe opened her mouth but could only mutter a weak denial. One even she didn't seem to believe. You're lying. Luis wouldn't. I said nothing more and turned to leave. Chapter 14. After getting in the car, I didn't leave right away. Instead, I stared at the school for a long time through the window. Once, this place held my happiest memories. Now, it all felt like a cruel joke. I felt like a bystander, watching my past self laughing as she walked hand in hand with her boyfriend and best friend. Maybe, just maybe, in some parallel universe, they'll stay like that forever, pure and bright. The day I filed for divorce, the weather was beautiful, from beginning to end. I didn't say a single unnecessary word to Luis. When the clerk asked if we confirmed the application, I gave a firm nod. Luis looked at me, eyes turning red. Miranda, the clerk interrupted impatiently. Sir, please answer the question. He could only nod. The process went smoothly. I took the papers and said to Luis, I'll remind you in a month. Please make sure you show up. All business. Before he could say anything, I had already stood up. Just before getting in the car, I saw Ryan standing by the door. Why aren't you waiting inside? Lately, the divorce had caused a lot of tension in my family. My father tried everything to stop it. Ryan found out, though I'm still not sure what he said to my father, but things at home had been surprisingly calm ever since. I was truly grateful to him. He was much taller than me, broad-shouldered and imposing as he stood by the car. I was afraid Luis might snap and try something. I figured I'd be ready to jump in and save you, he said seriously, like it was a noble mission. His expression begged for praise. I couldn't help but reach up and ruffle his hair. Thanks for your hard work. I'll treat you to something delicious later. His cheeks flushed with happiness. But behind us, a hoarse voice rang out, sour and bitter. Miranda, just a reminder, we're not officially divorced yet. I turned to glance behind him. What? No Zoe with you today? Seems like a perfect occasion. You should be off lighting red candles and warming the bridal bed with her." His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he said nothing. I gave him a half smile. "Well then, I won't interrupt your little honeymoon reunion. See you in 30 days. As the car started, Ryan revved the engine extra loud on purpose. Dust swirled in the air. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Luis standing there alone, full of regret and bitterness. Chapter 15. During the years I was married to Luis, I hardly went out. He was always busy, and my social circle was extremely limited. So when I gradually stepped back into single life, with Ryan around, who's the ultimate extrovert and knows how to have fun, I started truly enjoying myself. He introduced me to his sister, Fiona. From the moment we met, we clicked. She was bright, lively, sweet, and generous. Whenever she found a perfume or handbag she liked, she always brought an extra one for me. She let me borrow her favorite designer, and wherever she planned a trip, she'd ask if I wanted to come too. Little by little, I began to understand, no matter what kind of relationship it is, if you treat someone with genuine care, they'll feel it deeply. That kind of emotional reciprocity, it's a beautiful thing. Of course, some ridiculous gossip still reached me now and then. I heard Zoe sued her father for abandonment. Naturally, she lost. My family wouldn't allow such a scandal on record, so she was sent back overseas that very night. Later, I heard she was crying online, posting about all her precious memories with Luis. I took a look. It was a bunch of vague snapshots, turned into a scrapbook filled with handwritten, melodramatic love quotes. Honestly, I found it laughable. Luis clearly didn't. He immediately issued a formal statement accusing her of defamation. The whole thing blew up. Meanwhile, I was soaking up the last of summer on a private beach, camping under the stars. Good food, good wine, good friends. Fiona was happily dragging me toward the grill for some skewers when Ryan suddenly stepped in to block us. "Can you stop clinging to Miranda all the time?" Ryan complained. "Why don't you go get a boyfriend or something? I invited a whole bunch of good-looking guys today, and you didn't like any of them?" He reached out with a dramatic look of disapproval, trying to pull my hand away from his sister's, but Fiona suddenly spun around and yanked me closer. "Weren't those guys picked for Miranda? She's about to be officially single again. Let her see if anyone catches her eye." Ryan widened his eyes. "You, what, seriously?" He looked at me, then at her, clearly speechless, and finally muttered, "Whatever. You're still my sister." He laughed and let Fiona lead me away. That night, the fireworks on the beach were especially dazzling. Later, a message popped up on my phone from Ryan. "Pretty, right?" Warmth bloomed in my chest. I knew he was trying to lift my spirits before I saw Luis again the next day. "Beautiful. Thank you. Hee hee. Oh, and by the way, don't take anything my sister said today seriously. Also, those guys? None of them are worthy. Trust me." He added a meme of a little puppy nodding seriously. I couldn't help but laugh. Under the sparkling fireworks, I typed, "Okay, I trust you." The next time I walked into the civil affairs office and saw Luis, I almost didn't recognize him. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his chin, he looked completely wrecked. I paused only for a moment before stepping forward. "Let's go." Maybe it was my rare initiative that got to him. He nodded a bit too eagerly. The process was even faster than last time. When I received the certificate, I felt a sense of release. Then I heard a cautious voice behind me. "Miranda, have you been doing okay?" I turned to find Luis staring at me, eyes full of longing. Time seemed to rewind. The man I once cried and fought for was now standing in front of me, silently begging for my attention. But inside me, there was only calm. When I saw that he was still wearing the wedding ring, the one we exchanged with vows of forever, I stepped toward him. "Luis, don't do this to yourself. It doesn't suit you. And that ring, it's time to let it go." His lips moved. Then after a moment, he said hoarsely, "Okay, if you don't want to see it, I won't wear it anymore." I just looked at him. The correction I almost made died in my throat. Better to preserve what little dignity we had left. As I turned to leave, he suddenly grabbed my hand. "Miranda, I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness, but could you give me one more chance? Let me try again." I frowned and tried to pull away, but suddenly a large hand appeared beside us, chopping down like a blade to break his grip. Ryan looked thoroughly annoyed. Enough with the drama. Do you not know your place? You're her ex-husband now, got it? He really emphasized the word ex. Luis's eyes reddened again, stunned and speechless. I patted Ryan's hand gently. Let's go. Fiona's still waiting for us, right? Immediately, he perked up and ran ahead to open the car door for me. I shook my head. I'm sitting in the back with her. Oh, got it. I smiled faintly and looked out the window. The clouds rolled and parted above, and everything I cared about was right here beside me.